Ladies and gentlemen, dear governors, dear ministers, may we kindly ask you to take your seat. Thank you so much.
We would like to welcome you to the 2024 IMF World Bank Constituency meeting hosted by the Republic of Moldova. We are honored to greet you today in Moldova. The 2024 meeting, hosted by the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Moldova and the National Bank of Moldova, will have as its central topic ensuring vigorous growth in a volatile and uncertain environment, with key topics including private capital mobilization and opportunities for innovation and AI-driven growth. Please welcome Mr. Paul Hilbers, Executive Director, IMF.
Dear President Sandu, dear Prime Minister Recean, dear Minister Rotaru, dear Governor Dragu, dear IMF Deputy Managing Director Okamura, dear World Bank Vice President Bassani, dear Ministers and Governors of our IMF World Bank Constituency, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to welcome you all to our annual constituency meeting here in Chisinau in beautiful Moldova. My sincere thanks to the Moldovan authorities for hosting this beautiful event. Moldova became a member of the IMF and of our constituency in August 1992. And a lot has happened worldwide over the last 32 years. And certainly a lot has happened in Moldova. The country has successfully developed itself from a former republic of the Soviet Union into an independent nation with a well-functioning market economy. The economy has been transformed and transformed completely in those 3 decades, both in the public and in the private sector. Only recently we celebrated here in Chisinau the 30th anniversary of the national currency, the leu, and the authorities deserve huge credit for making the leu a well-managed and stable currency at the center of a well-developed and vibrant financial system and economy. Moldova has entered into negotiations with the EU on future membership, which is also a major milestone in its short economic history. Contacts with Brussels have been established and negotiations have started and are progressing. Our constituency consists of countries that are members of the EU or even the Euro area, countries that are involved in accession talks, like Moldova, and countries that wish to strengthen their ties with the European Union. That is really something that binds us and where we can all benefit. Unfortunately, the recent period has been strongly impacted by the unjustifiable and unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine, another member of our constituency. The attack started on February 24, 2022, and continues to take an enormous toll on the Ukrainian people, its authorities, and its economy. It was shocking that Ukraine was hit again by Russian missiles earlier this week, notably destroying the country's most advanced children's hospital in Kiev and 2 more medical centers. This terrible war also affects Moldova and other constituency members, unfortunately, economically, financially, politically, and socially. And on the latter, let me thank the Moldovan authorities and the Moldovan people for the generosity in helping their Ukrainian neighbor. Turning to the IMF, both Moldova and Ukraine benefit from a fund-supported program, and both programs are on track, which is remarkable testimony, I think, to the authorities' commitment and resilience. Both countries have passed a number of successful reviews in recent years, including just 2 weeks ago in the board in Washington on June 28. In addition, Armenia, Georgia, and North Macedonia also have financial arrangements with the fund, which means that a third of our constituency has active or precautionary arrangements with the IMF. Speaking about the IMF and the World Bank, this is also a historical moment in time, and not all of you may realize this, but exactly 80 years ago, from July 1 to 22, 1944, and only a few weeks after D-Day, the invasion of the Allied forces in Europe, the world gathered in Bretton Woods in the US and established both the bank and the fund as part of the Bretton Woods Agreement. Actually, 3 of our constituency countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg, were present during the conference and were among the 29 founders of the institutions. Yugoslavia was also there, so one might note that also Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia were represented as well, meaning that 7 of our 16 constituency countries have deep roots in our organization, roots that go back to the Bretton Woods times. Enough about history. Let's move to the future. We are here today to exchange views on the important question of ensuring growth and development in a volatile environment, focusing on the importance of private capital and the impact of innovation, financial innovation, and artificial intelligence. Given the times we are in, this topic could not have been more relevant. It is at the center of the current debate in Washington, and the authorities have lined up a number of impressive speakers to guide us through the discussions today. But let us not forget that we are also here to strengthen our strong internal ties as one of the biggest constituencies in the bank and the fund. In the IMF, we are actually the 4th largest constituency in terms of voting rights, right after the US, Japan, and China. So let us exchange experiences, learn from each other, and continue collaborating, not just during the various sessions, but also during the breaks and the social events, while enjoying the great hospitality and hopefully the excellent wine of our Moldovan colleagues. I wish you all a very good 2024 constituency meeting here in Moldova. Thank you very much, and I now turn the floor to Eugene Rhuggenaath, my World Bank colleague. Thank you.
Please welcome Mr. Eugene Rhuggenaath, Executive Director, World Bank Group.
Dear Madam President, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I join my dear colleague Paul Hilbers in welcoming you and expressing our sincere gratitude to the Moldovan authorities for organizing our constituency meeting here in Chisinau. We thank you wholeheartedly for this unique opportunity to get together in your beautiful country. As we all know and now see, Moldova has a long history, rich culture, and warm and hospitable people. This is truly a privilege to be part of an enriching and invigorating event. The beauty of these meetings, as Paul said, is that they bring us all together in one of our constituent countries and provide us with an opportunity to learn not just about the host country, but also from each other, bringing together a diverse range of expertise, fostering meaningful discussions and inspiring solutions that accelerate globally competitive, inclusive, and sustainable development. I am delighted that my first constituency meeting is here in Moldova, a country that has shown strong resilience, clear reform vision, and determination towards EU integration. The recent decision by European Council, which we salute, to open accession negotiation with Moldova is a momentous step on the country's European path and a testament to Moldova's commitment to EU values and standards. I come from a small island in the Dutch Caribbean and know the significance of resilience, inner strength. When staring in the face of adversity and external shocks such as pandemics, natural disasters, and geopolitical tension. In recent years, we have seen Moldova become more resilient, despite the tremendous external challenges. The unjustifiable, unprovoked Russian war against Ukraine has only strengthened Moldova's determination to advance toward EU membership. Moldova's resolve and stewardship of its people have been truly inspiring and have resonated worldwide, even in the Caribbean. And for this, I congratulate you. I ask for applause for Moldova. Instrumental in shaping the country's development journey has, of course, been the long-standing partnership with the World Bank Group. The World Bank's engagement with Moldova began in its early years of independence and has since evolved to address the complex challenges of a transitioning economy and shared commitment to leaving no one behind. Today, as Moldova is staring in the face of external threats, facing significant negative impact from Russia's war against Ukraine, our continued strong support to Moldova and its people is more important than ever. We are inspired by Moldova's resilience and determination, courage and leadership. And in a way, this is symbolized by the name of Moldova's currency, the leeuw, a cousin of the Dutch silver coin, the leeuwendaalder, the lion thaler, which bears the image of a rising lion. I'm therefore pleased to acknowledge our host country's leadership, especially their efforts in promoting human development in general and women in leadership in particular, which is also an important pillar of the World Bank Group's new gender strategy, yet another example of Moldova showing us the way. I'm proud to say that Madam President Maia Sandu once represented her country in our constituency office, EDS 19. And I'm also honored to recognize Madam Governor Anca-Dana, who previously worked as an economist at the IMF. Both of you bring valuable experience, knowledge, and expertise, and hence, Moldova's remarkable achievements should not come as a surprise. Finally, let me conclude by mentioning that this year, as Paul already eloquently explained, we mark the 80th anniversary of the Bretton Woods Agreement. In his remarks on this occasion, President Ajay Banga said, "For 80 years, the World Bank has worked to improve lives and make the world a better place. The world needs the bank, and the next 50 years will demand even more from this institution than were required in the preceding 80 years to realize a world free of poverty and on a livable planet." And I totally agree. The next 50 years, of course, we find ourselves in uncharted territory. I strongly believe that the solution to our shared global challenges is, and our key to the success of each country's development path, remains rooted in multilateralism and cooperation. Today, let us harness the spirit of resilience and determination that defines us. Together, we will navigate these uncharted waters, and not just to survive, but to thrive. I look forward to our shared journey towards success, and I wish you successful meetings. Thank you.
Please welcome the Honorable Miss Maia Sandu, President of the Republic of Moldova.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's a real pleasure to welcome you to Chisinau. The conference theme, ensuring vigorous growth in a volatile and uncertain environment, couldn't be more pertinent in the current times. In today's rapidly changing world, fostering economic growth is crucial for Moldova's national development and equally important for safeguarding our democracy. Moldova continues to feel the impact of the brutal and unprovoked war just across the border from us in Ukraine. The war has brought economic, social, and humanitarian challenges. But 2 years on, we are more resilient than ever. We have diversified our energy supplies away from dependence on Russian gas. We have carried on introducing reforms, and we are investing in building a better Moldova. The support of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund and other international partners helped us to navigate these turbulent waters. And I do hope that our cooperation will continue to produce positive results. But let's stand back and look at the big picture. Let's explore why such support is truly important. We live in a world which is very different to the one that existed before February of 2022. We are now on the front line of the fight for democracy, and it is through a strong economy we can fend off the threats we're facing. In Moldova, these threats, whether in the form of energy blackmail by Russia, disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, dirty Russian money aimed at financing destabilization activities, or bribing voters, aim to exploit our vulnerabilities and undermine our sovereignty. Ensuring that we prevail means that economic growth and democracy are two sides of the same coin. Economic progress is crucial for strengthening support for democracy, and democracy is the best foundation for creating a prosperous economy. Also, the integrity of our institutions plays a crucial role in our efforts to withstand the threats. Today, there are more and more forces trying to convince people that democracy is weak, that it does not deliver. These actors aim to propagate their own models of governance, deprived and dictatorial societies. It is our duty to show that true progress can only be achieved through democracy, where the free competition of ideas and actions drives positive change for all. And the institutions you represent today, International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, have a special responsibility in this endeavor. By supporting economic stability and growth, you help demonstrate that democratic values are essential for achieving prosperity and a better future. In essence, the IMF and World Bank are not just financial institutions. They are partners in our shared mission to defend democracy and counter the challenges we face. In the last few years have been difficult for all of us. Here in Moldova, we believe that EU accession is the path that will help us defend and consolidate our democracy, but also provide our people with the best economic opportunities. EU accession represents our aspiration to be part of a community of values where democracy, human rights, and the rule of law are paramount. The investments and reforms we undertake today are steps towards that better economic future which Moldovans want and which they deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to wait or hesitate. The stakes are too high for Moldova and for democracies around the world. We must ensure that our citizens are invested in and willing to defend our democratic values. To achieve this, we need, first of all, to increase our support to Ukraine, which is heroically defending its and our freedom on the battlefield every single day. We need to do a better job in fighting corruption and the dirty money which is used to undermine our democratic processes and institutions. And we need to increase the efficiency of our programs and projects in order to have strong economies and provide people with good standards of living. Only when people experience tangible results, benefits, and security in their daily lives can they fully appreciate the importance of protecting and upholding democracy. Let's continue to work hand in hand to build a brighter, more resilient future for our countries. We rely on your support to defend democracy, both here in our countries and around the world. Thank you.
Please welcome the Honorable Mr. Dorin Recean, Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova.
Paul and Eugene, thank you very much for the introductory speeches and such warm words about Moldova and Moldovans. Madam President, Madam Governor Dragu, DMD Okamura, Vice President Bassani, ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me, I'll go a little bit off the script. First of all, I would like to appreciate the ambition of this meeting, ensuring vigorous growth in such environment that we are today. This is a very high ambition and we should aim for it. We have a very volatile environment, and not only here in this part of the world, but elsewhere. This should not discourage us from working more on our policies of growth. Obviously, it's very difficult now because there is a kind of dissonance between what the reality is and what the perception is. I think the two current most famous examples are United States and France. United States has a very vigorous economy. United States has the lowest unemployment in 50 years, but the sentiment is not there. Look at France. France is also having a growth that didn't witness in the last 20 years. They're still holding the highest share of the GDP in social spending, but the sentiment is completely different. But sentiment, capital, and resources are very important for growth. So through our policies, we have to think how to overcome these problems. I saw a study made by the Dutch Central Bank that it was a survey of about 2,400 people, and it points to the fact that the inflation has impacts that go beyond the market, influencing people's trust in the institutions and in the policies. And we have this sentiment here as well that we shall overcome as an economy. It helps us that we are advancing in our European integration. This is a very good political sign. We work hard to adjust our legislation, to fight corruption, to do justice reform, to make sure that there is a rule of law that will make sure that all transformations that we are doing in Moldova will last, will not be reversible. But we still lack this sentiment and this consumer confidence, the investor confidence. So I hope that during these meetings that you'll have and we'll have this day, we'll find these solutions. I think I would like to appreciate the fact that IMF, World Bank are the stalwarts of the multilateralism and the stalwarts of the globalization. Currently, you know, free trade has been an article of faith in orthodox economics, but lately it is challenged. I think we have to make sure that trade flows continue to be free, and globalization is the right approach to a thriving economy everywhere. Moldova, as President Sandu mentioned, is affected by the war, the atrocities of the Kremlin in Ukraine. I would like to call for more support for Moldova, but also very importantly for Ukraine. We count on the international partners to boost the support in military terms, but also in economic terms, and together we can achieve a prosperous future. I will finish here and would like to wish you a successful conference and enjoy Moldova. Thank you.
Please welcome Mr. Petru Rotaru, Minister of Finance, Moldova.
Stimată doamnă președintă Maia,
Dear Madam President Maia Sandu, dear Mr. Prime Minister Recean, dear Madam Bassani Antonella, dear esteemed Deputy Director Kenji, dear governors of the IMF and World Bank Group, Your Excellencies, dear guests, dear friends, it's a pleasure for me as a Minister of Finance to say hello and welcome to the yearly Constituency reunion of IMF and World Bank Group. Together with the Moldova National Bank, we are especially honored to host this year's edition in Chisinau, and as a host, we appreciate your presence at this meeting. Today's event takes place in a historical environment for the Republic of Moldova. Once the decision of the European Council was taken for starting the accession procedure, now Moldova has a real chance to be a full member of the EU, and it's also a sign that Moldova is a trustworthy member. Today Moldova has a firm commitment to go through the EU accession because the EU participation means guaranteeing the values that we believe are important. The support of external partner is crucial for the Republic of Moldova through this pathway. This means support in the topics that we considered supports the rule of law and the economy. We're talking about investments in infrastructure and in governance. The next years will mean to build up a free economy based on digitalization, ready to be integrated in the unique market. We are looking to digitize and to mainstream the processes and to support the entrepreneurs and so that they can operate without obstacles. The Ministry of Finance took a very difficult but unavoidable role to facilitate Moldova's pathway, and for that we're doing maximal efforts to prepare the Republic of Moldova so that we correspond to the accession standard, so that by 2030 we are part of the great European family. This is a very, very time-consuming and full of effort process, but it's worth it because it can ensure a prosperous future for our citizens. And at the same time, the reforms that we are promoting or the reforms that we are going to launch will provide more freedom to the business environment. This means that the businesses can grow and develop. Taking into account the multiple crises, the Ministry of Finance worked to maintain budgetary stability and to create the relevant policies. But we did that while being in dialogue with the development partners, and as a result, in 2023, the state budget received 254 million euros grants, 700 million euros as loans, and these resources were directed to development projects which midterm and long term will create premises for accelerating and developing the economy. This means good roads, better streets, better cities, energy efficiency of the public buildings, agricultural support, modernizing the society. All these are supported. Moldova went through multiple crises that affected the economy, affected the budget, and of course our financial resources are limited. The state budget for 2024 tried to cover all the priority areas, and we are here today to tackle in our discussions a number of major challenges that Moldova and the global economy is facing. And also we are here to identify opportunities to build a sustainable economy for everyone. We will focus on some topics of maximum importance for the economy, but also for our joint future. In a volatile and uncertain environment, we must find solutions to support vigorous and sustainable economic growth. And yes, there are signs of improving in the global economy, but challenges like inflation, geopolitics, wars continue to create some bottlenecks for sustainable growth. And in this context, global cooperation and regional cooperation is imperative to support the socio-economic resilience and to facilitate a favorable economic growth. Our orientation towards innovation and technology includes AI. This means to open new horizons for sustainable development, and AI is no longer a future. This is already implemented in finances, health, transport, public services. It's a reality, but this also brings challenges. And we are here to tackle them. And to tackle them, we need a close global collaboration. And IMF and the World Bank Group is a crucial partner to support our efforts and to find a joint solution. And this platform is wonderful to create bilateral collaboration between ministries of finance and other organizations. To close, I encourage you to contribute actively to discussions that will be launched at today's meeting in order to identify innovation solution, in order to tackle global issues so that we can promote a inclusive and sustainable economic growth. To close, I would like to thank you for your presence at this constituency meeting, and also I would like to say warm welcome in Moldova. The position of Moldova, or you know how we are described, Moldova is a small country but it has a big heart. I can repeat this, and I can assure you that Moldova will surprise you with the hospitality and the wonders that it has. So please enjoy it.
Please welcome Ms. Anca-Dana Dragu, Governor of the National Bank of Moldova.
Your Excellencies, Madam President Maia Sandu, Mr. Prime Minister Dorin Recean, Madam Vice President Antonella Bassani, Deputy Managing Director Kenji Okamura, Mr. Paul Hilbers, IMF Executive Director, Mr. Eugene Rhuggenaath, World Bank Group Executive Director, honored governors of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank Group, representatives of diplomatic missions, distinguished guests, dear friends. Welcome to Chisinau for this edition of our constituency meeting of the IMF and the World Bank Group. It is an honor for Republic of Moldova to host this event. Southeast Europe region and the Black Sea area have drawn the world's attention in recent years due to the unjust war that Russia has started and continues against Ukraine, a neighboring country and a good friend of the Republic of Moldova and a member of our constituency. I will take this opportunity to express my solidarity with the Ukrainian people who are fighting with determination and for their freedom, security, prosperity, thereby making a major contribution to ensuring stability in our region, good economic perspectives, and hope. My compassion goes towards those who suffer, and I grieve for each life lost in this unprovoked war. I'm shocked after the recent ruthless attack on a hospital where innocent children were killed by Russian missiles. Republic of Moldova is close to this war, but we are also very close to the European Union. A year ago, Moldova had the honor of hosting the European Political Community Summit, where leaders from European countries discussed and decided on common efforts for peace, security, resilience, and connectivity in Europe. Today, we host an international meeting that is also crucial for regional stability and growth, addressing major economic and financial topics of interest for our countries. Today, the Western world is looking at Moldova with increasing confidence. Investors find an appealing environment here for new business ventures. The macroeconomic environment has stabilized after substantial inflationary challenges in 2022 and partially 2023. We are committed to maintain adequate monetary policy while ensuring a solid banking sector and strong financial stability, conducing to robust and sustainable economic growth. This meeting is also an opportunity to discuss the importance of continuing reforms, structural reforms, attracting foreign investments and private capital, and ways to create a competitive and transparent business environment. And this is also possible using the expertise of the IMF and the World Bank, also the expertise developed in the countries in our constituency. Talking about support, just let me mention that a few days ago, the IMF Board of Directors approved a new review, and the macro-financial assistance from the European Commission will follow. This is a tangible confirmation of the economic policy and measures taken by the Central Bank and the government of the Republic of Moldova. Esteemed guests, an eloquent example of our commitment to innovation is the support for fintechs and digital banking initiatives. These new and modern facilities do not only provide to Moldovan consumers quick and user-friendly interactions with the banking system, but they also extend access to banking services to all citizens, contributing to financial inclusion. We have taken significant steps towards integrating into the Single Euro Payments Area, SEPA. We submitted membership application in January this year. The instant payment system, called Maia, launched in March this year, is already being used by a significant number of persons. We may say that every 10th consumer is a Maia user. In the ecosystem of innovation, we shall pay particular attention to artificial intelligence. This rapidly evolving technology has a great potential to shape most of existing processes, including the models of doing business, but also the way we are designing and implementing our policies. Moldova has already a vibrant IT sector, which can contribute to the AI-driven growth, while our financial system was always very connected to modern digital technologies. In conclusion, let me repeat what I keep saying. Those who do not invest in Moldova today will regret in 5 to 10 years' time. I wish and I hope that you convey this message to all investors. We know about economics, about figures, but let me tell you something else. Let me tell you something that probably you've read recently. So I'd like to tell you something that you might know about Moldova. Did you know that our language is one of the loveliest languages in the world? According to a study evaluating 228 languages, published by The Economist magazine this year. So therefore, it is my pleasure to address you a few words in our language. You may need also headphones.
According to the New York Post, the Republic of Moldova was considered before the pandemic one of the most interesting tourist destinations. The main reasons tourists visit our country are traditions, hospitality, good food and wine. But Moldova is also one of the countries where artificial intelligence has started to be integrated in various fields. As an example of creativity, cooperation, innovation, openness to new technologies, I would like to mention the first collection of wines created in Moldova with the help of artificial intelligence. A virtual winemaker created these wines as part of an USAID-funded Rural Competitiveness and Resilience Activity project together with the National Office of Wine and Wine. Distinguished guests, let me conclude with a statement by Marcel Proust, who said, "True travel is not discovering new countries, but seeing the world with new eyes." Our country can change the European landscape through competitiveness and innovation. The Republic of Moldova has all of the elements to establish itself as a strong economy in the European Union. Thank you for choosing to be here today, and I say welcome to the Republic of Moldova.
Please welcome IMFC Member Deputy Mr. Jasper Wesseling, Deputy Minister of Finance, the Netherlands.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be here and very grateful for the hospitality we have received, and I congratulate the President and the Moldovan government with this meeting in Moldova. It's the first time for me in my new capacity at the Ministry of Finance of the Netherlands in the constituency. Fortunately, it's not my first time in Moldova. I've been here before and I love the country, so I'm glad to be back. This is my first time, and I'd like to go a little bit into the topic of ensuring vigorous growth in a volatile and uncertain environment, because that is very adequate theme for this conference. It's an important theme, and I'm, of course, convinced that IMF and World Bank play a very important role in addressing that growth. Even though the global economy as a whole has been somewhat resilient, we know that since 2.5 years ago, the Russian invasion has provoked an enormous effect on Ukraine and neighboring countries like Moldova. Less than a year ago, there was another event, the Hamas terror attack on Israel, and of course we're also deeply concerned by the ongoing conflict in Gaza and its consequences. The Netherlands has got a new government just last week, and I'm happy to say that the new Dutch government is firmly committed to stand by Ukraine and all the support we can give to Ukraine in the coming years. IMF is an important institution to retain growth and to increase productivity. The IMF points at several risks and challenges ahead. That's not to become somber, but it's because they want to address all these issues. Of course, the risk of geo-economic fragmentation. Secondly, the high fiscal pressures that every country faces because of all these challenges. Thirdly, for a number of countries, low-income countries mostly, high debt levels. IMF and the multilateral organizations and multilateral cooperation is, we think, the key to addressing these issues, the only way to solve these issues. Because we think it's important to keep the gains from free trade and to work on structural reforms to increase productivity. And that calls for policy prioritization, of course, because we have to put the fiscal stance on a firmly sustainable path, but fiscal consolidation should not come at the expense of growth-enhancing investments. And the IMF has an important role to assist us as members while addressing the aforementioned risks and challenges. And this year, there are some priorities for the fund that we have to tackle. First place, the outcome of the 16th quota review needs to be implemented this year to maintain the fund's strong position at the center of the global financial stability net. And also, we think the 25th chair for sub-Saharan Africa countries is an important step towards improving the governance and representation within the IMF. Second, multiple important policy reviews need to be concluded this year, such as the review of the surcharges, which largely affects a country like Ukraine. Also, the review of the poverty reduction and growth trust is needed. Those issues are crucial for the effective functioning of the IMF. It's true that the fund can contribute greatly by policy advice, and as a policy advisor, policy person in the Netherlands government, I've been very grateful for all the policy advice that the Netherlands itself has gotten through the Article 4 consultations, and I'm confident that other member states have the same experience. Also, of course, there's financial support, such as the programs for Ukraine, Moldova, North Macedonia, Armenia, and Georgia. These are important, and they come side to side for many countries with the trajectories for joining the European Union. That's a shared interest, I think, of our constituency. And in the constituency, Paul and Eugene are our great leaders, our supporters. And later this year, there will be the successors of those, Paul and Eugene, and I'm happy that they are already present at this meeting, at this conference, and you will be able to meet them later on and get acquainted with them. For me, it's a great opportunity to meet many, many new people. I'm honored by the conference, but I'm also very curious to meet many of you, and I'm looking forward to the conference and meeting many more of you later today. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Development Committee Member Deputy, Mr. Robert-Jan Sieben, Head IFI, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Netherlands.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to echo earlier the speakers before me in thanking the Moldovan authorities for their hospitality. And I would also like to thank everyone who's worked hard to organize this year's constituency meeting. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you in Chisinau, and I look forward to our discussions and to getting to know all of you better. It is my honor to represent the Dutch Minister of Foreign Trade and Development. As you may know, in the Netherlands, the responsibility for the World Bank is shared between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Like Jasper just did, I would like to briefly inform you about recent developments in the Netherlands before I go into upcoming discussions that, or into discussions that may come up in the Development Committee. We have two new ministers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Caspar Veldkamp is our new Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he was director at the board of the EBRD, the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, before serving as minister, and as Minister of Development Cooperation, as Foreign Trade and Development, is Renate Krever. She's an economist by training with a background in the private sector. The priorities of our new government remains committed to multilateralism, and priorities will include food security, water, and regional stability. As Jasper just mentioned, our new government also remains strongly committed to supporting Ukraine. And in their first week in office, our Minister of Defense and our Minister of Foreign Affairs traveled to Kyiv to meet with President Zelensky and senior staff. We've also secured budget for this year and next year to continue to support Ukrainian recovery and reconstruction efforts. With regard to the discussions that may come up eventually in the Development Committee, I would like to highlight four. First, in 2025, we will have a shareholding review, and our aim is to have an approach that is transparent and based on readily available data, while simultaneously maintaining the voting share of our constituency. Second discussion is the IDA replenishment. We've had two rounds of negotiations, first one on the policy framework and the second one on the side of the 21st replenishment. And we will have two more rounds before an agreement is reached at the end of this year. In our view, two issues are at the core of this replenishment. The first one is maintaining high levels of affordable financing for client countries, given the financial limitations in many donor countries. And the second one is simplifying the organizational structure of IDA while sufficiently incorporating donor priorities into IDA's work. The third discussion that merits our attention is the World Bank's Climate Change Action Plan. This October, the board will receive an update from management on implementation of the action plan, and this is relevant because the role of the bank with regard to gas and nuclear energy is under discussion. And then fourth, which is also the subject of our discussions here in Chisinau, is private capital mobilization. Our main session today is premised on the need for scaling up private capital mobilization because of scarce public resources across many regions. In this regard, the recommendation of the Private Sector Investment Lab will be important. As you know, the lab is an advisory group of executives from the finance sector that will hopefully help the bank to finally address some of the bottlenecks of attracting private capital in emerging markets like yours, some of yours. By the annual meeting in October, we should see two foreign exchange instruments being presented to governors, the multi-layer foreign exchange facility and the local currency mobilization facility. The bank, and then especially the IFC, is also looking more closely at different business models, such as originate to refinance. The idea here is that the IFC will take on a stronger role as project originator and developer, while other financiers will provide a bigger share of project financing. Let me stop here. As I said, I look forward to our next session and also to learning more about your priorities for the World Bank, especially in the run-up to the annual meeting in Washington, D.C. in October. Thank you.
Please welcome Mr. Kenji Okamura, Deputy Managing Director, IMF.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to join you today in lovely Chisinau. I am pleased to address the member of this constituency. Together, you represent a diverse group of countries from across Europe, the Caucasus, and Eastern Mediterranean. Your ambassador at the bank, Mr. Paul Hilbers, identified this diverse group as a mini IMF, which is very true. I would also like to thank the Moldovan authorities for hosting these meetings. Moldova has demonstrated remarkable resilience amid severe shocks, including from higher energy prices, supply disruptions, and refugee flows and other spillovers from the war in neighboring Ukraine. At the same time, Moldova has made impressive progress toward comprehensive economic reforms that are enhancing the country's economic stability and growth prospects. But for Moldova and for Europe more broadly, risks to resilience, stability, and growth remain. Today, I will discuss how to address these challenges by enhancing growth and productivity across Europe. But before I do, let's briefly take stock of where we are. Our recent regional economic outlook for Europe described this situation as a soft landing in crosswinds. Soft landing in crosswinds. Despite the pandemic and the energy shock sparked by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, unemployment in Europe is at record lows. Financial sectors are stable, and growth is projected to recover, albeit gradually. Inflation rates, which ranged from 2% in Armenia to 13% in Moldova in 2023, are returning to targets. So, a soft landing is within reach. But there are also crosswinds. In the near term, an escalation of Russia's war in Ukraine would further increase the loss of life, livelihoods, and infrastructure, and trigger a new wave of refugees. And a broadening of the conflict in the Middle East could affect supply chains and commodity prices, jeopardizing the recovery across the constituency. In the medium term, Europe must contend with a long list of structural challenges, including aging populations energy security, climate change, and geo-economic fragmentation. Preserving and sharpening Europe's competitive edge in the face of these challenges will require a well-considered strategy to tackle Europe's main growth obstacle, that is, low productivity. For Europe as a whole and the constituency's countries, income per capita is substantially lower than its main global competitors. This has been true across the constituency and predates the pandemic. For the advanced countries in this constituency, the per capita income gap between Europe and the US, the per capita income gap, an important benchmark for comparisons on productivity and growth. The gap is now around 20%. While some of this gap may reflect different preferences towards work, income, and leisure, it may still hint this number of 20%. This may still hint at some opportunities to catch up. For the emerging economies in the constituency, the gap is even larger, with progress stalling since the global financial crisis. Indeed, income levels in European emerging economies are 30% of US GDP per capita. These income gaps primarily stem from differences in technological progress and market efficiency. In fact, our research showed that differences in total factor productivity, a measure of economic performance and efficiency, TFP, account for most of the per capita income gap. In emerging Europe, a smaller capital stock also plays an important role, and low investment rates have contributed to the wide capital and income gaps with the US and other advanced economies. Then, an important question is how can Europe raise its productivity? And a key answer lies in Europe's core strength, its single market. Single market is what gives the EU its economies of scale and scope. Deepening the EU's single market can raise productivity and enhance resilience to downside fragmentation risks. Let me outline 4 steps. First, remove trade barriers within the EU. Trade integration in the EU is higher than either in other regional agreements, but not as high as the level observed among states in the US. And there is ample evidence that deeper trade integration benefits all countries in Europe by raising productivity, as discussed in our April 2024 Regional Economic Outlook. Second step is to raise investment and improve capital allocation. In the EU's advanced economies, enhancing banking and capital markets unions is crucial. Why? Because it would boost productivity, enhance cross-border risk sharing, but also deepen access to finance for households and firms. In emerging Europe, improving the regulatory environment is also critical. So too is good governance, which is key to attracting investment and for EU accession. Third, increase labor supply and skills. For economies seeing an upturn in immigration, there is scope to build on recent successes. In Poland, for example, the majority of working-age refugees have been integrated into the labor market. Moldova, the country with the largest number of refugees from Ukraine per capita, is another good example of how efforts to integrate refugees in the labor market can benefit the host country. And for aging economies, reforms that keep older workers in the labor force are needed. In terms of skills, the priority should be to fast-track AI training. Sector-based training and upskilling and reskilling programs are needed to prepare workers for the jobs of the AI age. Finally, the fourth point, to promote innovation. Fiscal policy can bolster technology adoption and R&D across the board. When it comes to AI, a technology that holds the promise of lifting productivity growth, we also need to think about the policies needed to broaden the gains for society at large. My colleague, Era Davila Norris, from the IMF's Fiscal Affairs Department, will elaborate on this topic this afternoon. Now, let me conclude. To contend with the challenges of today and tomorrow, a comprehensive strategy for competitiveness is essential. The IMF is here to assist you through our programs, our capacity building support, and our policy advice, in which we engage extensively across the constituency. We are and will continue to be your partners. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Ms. Antonella Bassani, ECA VP World Bank Group.
Dear Madam President, ministers, governors, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here with you today. And on behalf of the World Bank Group, I would like to thank the Moldovan authorities for generously hosting this constituency meeting. I would like in particular to thank the Minister of Finance and the Governor of the National Bank, the Executive Director's offices and all their staff for the excellent organization of this event. This year's constituency meeting takes place in Moldova at a very historic time for the country, as it has just reached EU candidate status and has embarked on the EU project for its population prosperity, a project that the World Bank will strongly support. And we have gathered here today to discuss how we can help create and sustain vigorous economic growth for the countries in the region. More than 2 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the war is still ongoing, with dramatic impacts on Ukraine and repercussions in the rest of the region and the world. The recent intensification of attacks in Ukraine has had a devastating impact on the country's critical infrastructure and many casualties among its population. Just in the last 2 months, the country's energy generation capacity has been destroyed by more than 50%. Clearly, this will have profound impacts on the lives on Ukraine's population, but also on the country's economic activity and productive capacity. The World Bank will continue to help Ukraine meet its immediate needs while also focusing on the long-term recovery and reconstruction of the country and support its economic reform to set a foundation for Ukraine's future growth and development. And we will continue to support neighboring countries in addressing the spillover effect of the war, including our host, Moldova. In the face of the war, the countries in the region have demonstrated a remarkable resilience, as confirmed by the most recent World Bank economic update, which finds signs of an economic recovery after several years of multiple shocks. Importantly, inflation has fallen sharply and much faster than expected, owing to lower global food and energy prices and tighter monetary policies. But despite this resilient outlook, the countries in the region still face multiple headwinds. Excluding Ukraine and the Russian Federation, growth in the region weakened to 3.1% in 2023 from 4.8% in 2022, as the region felt the ripple effects of slower than expected recovery in key trading partners like China and the Euro area, as well as restrictive monetary policies and geopolitical developments. In 2/3 of the countries in the region, growth was lower in 2023 than the year before, while in 1/3 of the countries, growth estimates were recently downgraded relatively to the January 2024 projection. So fostering vigorous economic growth against this backdrop will require action on several fronts, primarily accelerating structural reforms, but also investing in human capital and addressing the impact of climate change. For countries like our host Moldova and Ukraine, which started EU accession negotiations a couple of weeks ago, and for other countries across the region that achieve or aspire to reach candidate status, alignment with EU regulation remains a fundamental objective, a step towards integration with the large EU markets and greater income convergence with advanced economies. Although it faces its own challenges, the European Union remains a key engine for change and growth in the region. A dozen countries have joined the EU in less than 3 decades, and their successful transition to EU integrated market economies with strong institution and production structures, including to high income status, illustrate the power of reforms. But in several countries of our region, however, the structural reforms that are key to enhancing productivity and supporting private sector growth have slowed down. So progress in advancing institutional and market reform, as well as innovation and technology adoption, are fundamental drivers of productivity growth, and these have weakened in the region. So revitalizing the reform agenda will be crucial. And in this context, the focus could be on creating a more enabling environment for private sector activity through strategy and proactive measure to enable businesses to grow and thrive. These include reforms to create a transparent regulatory framework, enhance competition, reduce state involvement in the economy, ensure a level playing field for investors, develop well-functioning financial markets, and improving infrastructure. And private capital will be required not only to ensure sustainable and vigorous growth, but also to help finance the huge infrastructure and climate mitigation and adaptation needs of the region. In addition to revitalizing the reform agenda, harnessing the full power of human capital will also be essential to improve productivity and build sustainable economic growth in the region. The quality of education needs dramatic improvement in several countries. Investing in skills creation can ensure that the region's youth are equipped to meet the demands of a rapidly changing global labor market and can contribute fully to the social and economic development in the region. And let me mention two factors that make human capital formation an economic imperative for your countries. Education and experience account for about a third of the income gap that subsists between developing and advanced economies. So investing in human capital formation is crucial to narrow this gap and accelerate income convergence with European Union economies. Second, whilst many Asian countries have shown remarkable improvement in PISA indicators, notably for reading and mathematics in recent years, several countries in the Europe and Central Asia region have fallen behind educational standards. And while this was affected by the COVID pandemic, it was also a reflection of long-term issues with the education system. I would also like to touch briefly on the challenge of climate change and its multiple impacts in the region. We see that extreme events and natural disasters are already happening more frequently. Our regions have experienced devastating floods, but also water scarcity, particularly in countries where aging infrastructure and efficient water management are contributing to increased water stress. Soaring temperatures are threatening agricultural output and reducing labor productivity. The World Bank Group Country Climate and Development reports show that in some countries of the region, climate change impact already permeate all sectors of the economy. And in this context, decarbonizing the energy sector must be scaled up to reduce harmful emissions and enable countries to meet their commitments under the Paris Agreement. And this again will require mobilizing significant financial resources as well as adopting realistic and socially responsible pricing for domestic electricity and national gas consumption. Strengthening regulatory framework and gradually liberalizing energy markets will help facilitate private investment flows. The transition to clean energy in the region is a challenging endeavor, but one that also offers major opportunities to strengthen energy security, improve air quality, support economic growth through the development of energy and water markets, improve productivity, and create employment. Several countries in the region benefit from great potential from hydro, wind, and solar energy, and support from the private sector as well from the World Bank Group and all the development partners will be needed to unlock these opportunities and expand renewable energy in the region. Finally, let me touch briefly on regional cooperation that can make a major contribution to both the energy transition, but also improve infrastructure and productivity more broadly. Some countries are already taking the lead on this regional initiative. For instance, initiative to develop a green energy corridor through the South Caucasus and the Black Sea underwater cable are some projects that seek to foster regional integration to leverage the region's extensive renewable energy resources. And regional cooperation will also be critical to enhance transport and digital connectivity in the region. A bank study estimated that improving a rail and maritime corridor linking China and the European market via Central Asia and the Caucasus, also known as the Middle Corridor, could increase intra-regional trade by 37% by 2030, and trade between these countries and the European Union by 28%. The World Bank Group is assisting countries through the low-carbon transition in energy and infrastructure sector more broadly. We do so by financing specific projects, but also by providing technical assistance and thought leadership that contribute to shaping regional policies. I cannot conclude without emphasizing the need to embrace technology and innovation to boost productivity and attract investment. The region has plenty of room for boosting business dynamism through innovation. Globally, technology is playing an ever-growing role in productivity growth, including through artificial intelligence, which will be instrumental in shaping the global economy, spurring a new global industrial revolution, enhancing efficiency, and reducing operational costs. In conclusion, geopolitical uncertainty continues to create risk and volatility, undermining growth prospects in the region. But while the challenges are real and cannot be underestimated, countries in the region also have untapped potential for vigorous growth and social and economic development that can be unlocked through structural reforms and well-targeted investments. The World Bank, together with IFC and MIGA, will continue to share its expertise and provide financial support to help countries navigate through these challenges and grasp opportunities for their transition to a low-carbon, sustainable, and vigorous economic growth and social development that can deliver prosperity for the region's population. Thank you again, and I look forward to our discussion today and tomorrow.
Well, I kindly ask you for another round of applause, expressing thanks for our host, but also our keynote speakers, our speakers, for the encouraging words and a lot of food for thought. We are also honored to welcome a number of ambassadors and diplomatic representatives, but also representatives of the European Union as guests today, this morning, and thank them for their valued presence at this introductory session. Yes. However, the time has come to bid them farewell as we now conclude the portion of the program that was open to guests and the press. The remainder of today's activities are limited to the registered delegates of the IMF and the World Bank constituencies. We would like to kick off the private portion of the program by inviting by inviting the delegates at the table to come to the next room for a family photo. I would like to invite the others to enjoy a lunch and wish them fruitful bilateral meetings. Thank you for your presence this morning.